Hi, this is Ringa, and today I bring you a picture I actually drew a background for. So I don't really have anything specific to talk about for this speed paint, so I'm just going to talk about a bit about the drawing process behind this. As I mentioned, it's not very often I draw backgrounds, mostly due to the time involved. Mostly because it's not something I do regularly, so it does take me a while, and then, you know, by the time I'm spending 3 or 4 days on a picture, I get really frustrated with it, and I just... it's easier to give up, basically, and be lazy and just have, like, floating head with transparent background. But I am trying to get better this year, so this is, I think, my first picture of the year with a proper, decent, illustrated background. I wanted to do something nature-based, because I feel like that's a good start. Don't have to worry too much about perspective. I mostly just want to try and feel around and work out how I want to paint backgrounds, because whenever I used to draw backgrounds it would always be really jarring between the way the character was painted or drawn and the way the background was painted. So I wanted to try and play around with some textured brushes, which isn't something I've really done before, and try and figure out a way of drawing the background with enough detail for it to look like I've put effort into it, but not too much detail where it's distracting and you lose the characters. And, you know, it's just a bit of practice, really. And I didn't want to be messing around trying to do perspective either. So I chose this nice generic fantasy field, for this picture of Todoroki from the Fantasy AU in the second ending of My Hero Academia. As you can see, I had some trouble with drawing Todoroki, but I did the horse, like, first try, which is very odd. Usually I have more trouble drawing animals than people, but I don't know, for some reason when I was drawing this I just couldn't get the face right, I couldn't get the body right. I went through like 6 different poses, and I feel like I had a better pose at the beginning of the process, but I think it got to the point where I rubbed it out and redrew it again so many times I just kind of lost the movement that I had in mind, and I guess that's my own fault. Sometimes I think I should just take a step back and come back to a drawing later, instead of trying to rush through and finish a sketch in one night, which is what I did on this, I believe. But that's kind of a hard thing to do. I do struggle with pacing myself, because I want to produce as much art as I can as fast as I can, so I know that's one of my main issues. You see here I'm redrawing the leg like 6 billion times because I couldn't decide on the perspective, but I do have kind of a that'll do attitude, I must admit, with this picture, but to be honest it was mostly for background experimentation, and I wasn't too fussed about making like a fully illustrated piece. I mean, it's not for like a Zine or anything, or, you know, it's just practice at the moment. Although I do like the finished result, obviously, but it's not like it's for a uni project or something like that. Not that I go to uni, but... So, yeah, I think I am happy with it in the end. I feel like I could have spent a lot more time on it, a lot more time refining the horse. I'm still not 100% happy with how the hooves look, but I mean, I haven't drawn a horse since I was... when did you go to secondary school? 11? 11, I think? Maybe 10? I don't know, I haven't drawn a horse in years. I used to draw them all the time because of the special features on the Spirit DVD, where James Baxter showed you how to draw Spirit, and I was like, I love this! And for months straight I just draw horses every day. So obviously that was ingrained in my muscle memory, because this guy came out in like one sketch, whereas Todoroki was a lot more difficult. Mostly because I didn't have a reference of like a rider on the horse. I had a reference for the horse, just for proportions, but this is another flaw I have. I don't really take the time to find a good reference. I'm like, I can wing it. And then I spend ages trying to figure out why the anatomy doesn't look bad. And if I just started from a reference in the first place, I wouldn't be doing it. So I have actually invested in some like dolls, like the bodycon dolls, to help me with working out poses and, you know, sorting out glaring anatomy errors, you know, at the beginning, and then worrying about details like hands and faces, etc. later. So I am actively trying to get better at that. I'm also trying to get better at one layer painting. Well, this isn't really one layer, I used a lot of layers in this picture, but in a way I felt I'm still trying to just find a way to paint fast. That's my number one issue whenever I do a fully painted picture, is that it just takes a huge amount of time and it's very difficult. I'm very indecisive, so when I work with a lot of layers in my like line art style, it's nice. I can always, if I want to change a hair colour, I can go back and change it, and you know, it's nice and easy. But when I'm working with painting, it's a lot harder to retroactively change details. So I tried to kind of circumvent that here by making, don't know if that's the right word, but I tried to avoid that here by making loads of layers. But in the end it just got messy and I forgot about what layers I was working on, and I'm gonna ruin the whole picture for everybody now because I forgot to shade Todoroki's like brown shoulder straps because I had too many layers and I thought I'd shaded everything, and I was like, by that point I was like, I want to see the end of this picture. I just want it over and done with. And I didn't even notice until I was rendering the footage for this that I just completely left them a flat colour. And that's great, isn't it? But that is typical me, to be honest. So, I mean, although this was a good experiment, I do want to try and just stick to one layer. I mean, I used to do a lot of one layer stuff, but it was just time constraints. It took so long to do anything. And I do want to try and get back into doing it, but it's really difficult to go back and change anything. I remember when I did my picture for Usagi from Sailor Moon, and right after I finished shading the hair, I decided I didn't like that hair colour. And I had to like use so many overlay layers and very precisely draw around the edges of the hair to get like get this overlay layer done so I could change the colour of the hair. I think you can actually see it on the speed paint I have of it, and it was just like not fun. Not fun. I mean, the very first time I tried painting it was to try and avoid spending ages doing fiddly line art. So it was counterproductive to save time not doing line art, but then spend ages painstakingly tracing the hair to change the colour. So, but that again is the same problem that I had here, where in that picture and on this picture as well, I did lose patience at the end and I did rush. And that's when I always make all my mistakes, is when I rush. But it's very difficult for me to decide what's more important, getting a finished picture done or spending the time to get something done to a high quality. Because at the end of the day, I don't know, it's just really difficult. I don't have a huge amount of free time, and sometimes it's more, although I know this picture has flaws, I do feel really good about myself, the fact that I've done so many pictures in the month of January, where I feel like I've done more art in January than I've done in like the whole of 2017. So I guess it's like weighing up pros and cons. Yeah, there are some things I would change about this, but at the same time I don't think I could have had the motivation to carry on working on all the details for this for like hours and hours and hours. I don't think I would have gotten anything out of it, really. I can still learn retrospectively like what I could do to make this better next time, and then I can just apply that next time, instead of spending an extra like 5 days on this and not getting anywhere. So anyway, back onto shading the skin now, which is something I always have trouble with. I'm trying desperately to get better and to get more realistic face shapes. I do kind of fall into like the generic anime trap with the big old pointy chin and all this jazz, but it is hard. It's hard learning the planes of the face. I have difficulty balancing. Obviously I don't want to draw like 100% realism. I'm not really interested in that, but I do want to incorporate more realistic elements, but it is difficult. It's hard choosing where do I want to draw the line. I want to simplify the shape to make it elegant, but at the same time I have to factor in that your cheek does curve in and then your chin does jut out, and then oh, does it make his chin look fat? And I'm still very much finding a style for faces. It's difficult, and sometimes I do miss just drawing like big old anime eyes, a little pointy tiny nose, and then not having to worry much about the face shape or anything. But I feel like it's a study and an exercise I need to do, because I can't just get away with, as much as I still love drawing anime weeaboo stuff, I can't just get away with doing that for my whole life. Not because anybody's judging me, well they probably are, but because I'm judging myself. I know I can do better. I know I can study more. I feel like I'm learning a lot of how to draw body anatomy, but I feel like my faces are behind sometimes, so I am actively trying to get better, and it's not fun, but I think I am getting there. I especially like the way I did his scar as well. As I said with the background, I'm trying to use more textured brushes, but Sai doesn't really have the best selection. I might try working with some other programs, because I feel like although I do like the very soft shading that I can do with the watercolour brushes in Sai, sometimes I do like that kind of painterly effect where you can see the brush strokes. It's hard. I don't know quite what I'm doing yet. Using a bit of both, I think, but even in this piece I used the very soft painting style that I usually use for all the clothes, and then the background I used the brush, so it is kind of slightly jarring, I guess, to see that texture in the background but not on the clothes. But the texture brush, as I said, in Sai is not the best, and I feel like if I used it on the clothes it could very easily look like tacky, like very easily look tacky, and they don't tile very well, the textured brushes in Sai. Maybe not so much the texture, but like the brush nib is fine I think, but it's the texture that doesn't tile well. It just looks very false, and I suppose in a background like that it's not too bad because it's not like the main focus of the piece, but I feel like if I tried to emulate that in the actual painting of the character, it would look a bit weird to see this repeated pattern. I'm sure if any of you have used Sai, you'll know what I mean. When you set like the texture to, I don't know, canvas or something, and it's just the same repeated tile over and over and over. This is where I think programs like Photoshop do, you know, shine, but can't all use Photoshop. But I might experiment with some other programs, I don't know yet. I still feel like I have a lot to learn anatomy-wise and just shading in general. Like, embarrassingly, this is the first picture I've drawn in potentially years with a light source. I usually just kind of put the shading wherever I want, and that's bad. And I can even see some of this here where it's hard. For years I don't know why, I just never used a light source. I was like, just put the shading where I think it should be. And if I'm trying to overall improve my shading, I do need to actually work on that, because at the moment the lighting source is a bit confused. It's like supposed to kind of be coming from behind him, but he's not really backlit, but it's an improvement on my last picture, and that's all I can really ask for. I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I don't want to spend hours and hours perfecting every single piece, so sometimes good enough is good enough. And at least now I've learnt for my next picture that I need to be a bit more attentive to light sources, which I hate working on. Here I am finally deciding that the background needed a bit more detail to look a bit less jarring against Todoroki and the horse. I made a huge mistake on this as well, where I made the background way too big, and I can't believe it, my heart fell through my chest when I finished this picture, and I was like, oh, I'll do a little close-up, I'll do a crop, and the crop looked like 50 billion times better than the finished picture, which was heartbreaking. I was like, I drew all this goddamn grass for nothing! But, that's my own fault. As I said, one of my main flaws is that I will rush a picture because I want to get it done, and I want to produce something, and I don't have a lot of spare time, and etc, etc, etc. Excuses, excuses. Excuses, excuses! I should have thought about that before I started painting, but alas, I didn't. I spent all this time on this goddamn background and nobody sees it. Well, I do have a non-crop version as well, but I do much prefer the crop version. But you live and you learn, don't you? So hopefully I can use what I learned on this on future paintings, but it was definitely an experience, and I do want to try doing more full body paintings. So anyway, thanks for watching my video. I'll probably be doing more of these because I do like chatting away to you guys, even if nobody's listening. Anyway, I hope you're doing okay, and I'll see you in the next video.